Hi, I'm Pam, and I would like to welcome you to the Live Authentically show. My team and I help other people step into their authentic realities via a number of different modalities. This show is obviously one of them. We also have a Facebook group of like-minded people committed to spiritual growth and transformation, and I would love to have you join us there. We can be found at liveauthentically.today/FB. I'm also super pumped because I just released my first book. It is called SOAR, S-O-A-R, and it's a spiritual experiential journey through my divorce process and shows how I partnered with the universe to create my new reality. And I suggest that I invite you to check it out. It's at pamelasavino.com. And I firmly believe that by following some of the principles and ideas in this book, anyone has the power within them to take their life from mediocre to mind-blowing. I'm also an individual coach, so I work with individuals and I do public speaking. So I am super excited that on today's show with us, we have Scott Kramer. Hi, Scott.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Scott is here. Scott is actually a divorce attorney. And while some of you may be thinking that with my background in my book, he may be here to talk about his experiences as a divorce attorney, he is actually here to talk about a very different experience. And that experience is, he's going to share with us his experience of his daughter, Maddie, was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer at the age of 2.5 and lost her battle here on earth, but her spirit lives on in a very beautiful way. And Scott and his wife have founded Dancing While Cancering, and he is going to tell us how he has turned their experience into a beautiful gift to this world. So it's such an honor to have you here, Scott, and to have you share your story with us.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here, and always very much a privilege to share Maddie's story and her beautiful impact, as you put it so perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm anxious to dive into your experience and your story, but I like to start the show off with the same question for everyone. And I would love to hear how you answer. What does it mean to you to live authentically every day?
I think sitting here today, knowing who we're talking about, and the thought behind our conversation, I know that I'm living authentically when I'm carrying a little bit of that little girl on my shoulder during my day.
Such a beautiful answer. Such a beautiful answer. Thank you. So where I'd love to start is I know that you do so much good in the world by, with Dancing While Cancering, and we're going to get into that on the show, how you help scatter joy and shine your light into this world and carry Maddie's legacy on. I would love to start at the beginning of your story, because I feel like so many people have found themselves in your shoes, similar shoes, where they're going along life as usual, and one day a diagnosis has been dropped in their lap, or they receive unexpected news. So can you take us back to the beginning?
Sure. Yeah, Pam, I think those are, in many ways, those are the moments that unite us.
Right.
That's that commonality of experience. It's that phone call, that MRI, that unexpected knock on the door. And for us, it was very much that trauma moment. Maddie was healthy, happy, beautiful, amazing little 2.5-year-old girl. Not a worry in the world, not an injury or a cold to speak of. Really, she was brilliant, happy, and beautiful. And she had a cold, though, for about a week in April of 2017. And we set foot in the emergency room on the evening of April 20th, really just as a precautionary measure. She started to show some rashes on her hand, and was having some pain in her neck, which a couple of doctor's visits had just attributed to swollen lymph nodes from the cold that she was experiencing. So we really went to the emergency room in the way that so many of us do, where it's, you got to go, you're gonna have to wait a long time, and then they're gonna send you home. No worries. I can still picture walking in. She had her little juice box in one hand, She had a bag of animal crackers in the other, where we were watching Lion Guard on the television. It was just sort of a little break, check the box and make sure everything's all right. And they called her name a few minutes in, and I remember putting Maddie on the scale in the little triage room at the back of Lurie Children's in Chicago. And as soon as I put her down, her legs just buckled under her, and she couldn't bear any weight. And I remember seeing the look on the nurse's face at that moment, and it was sort of the beginning of that pit of darkness, that something doesn't feel right. Your mind, there's only so many places your mind can go because no one has prepped you. So I still sort of was in a little bit of just sort of denial and uncertainty. I said, she's been laying around a lot with not feeling well the last couple of weeks. Maybe her legs have atrophied. And the nurse just sort of nodded her head. And from there, literally like that, within minutes to hours, Maddie started growing paralyzed on the left side of her body, like in full. We watched her unravel in front of our eyes. And after a series of tests, poking, prodding, sometime around midnight, Maddie was intubated for an MRI. And a fellow walked into our room just after midnight on April 21st, and couldn't even get the words out. She put her hands around her throat and tried to verbalize what we ultimately learned was her attempt at describing something she had probably never seen before, which was a growth that was covering, it was literally inside of Maddie's 2.5-year-old spinal cord, pushing up against 4 levels of her spinal column. One of those levels is the level that enables us to walk, which is why she was paralyzed. The next level we learned was the level that allows us to breathe. And so had we not walked into the emergency room that night, we probably would have lost Maddie at home in her sleep, not knowing what was going on. Sometime around 6 a.m. after waiting for the medical team to arrive, they put the proper procedures in place to keep Maddie safe throughout the night. And neurosurgeon told us that the only option forward was going to be an emergency surgery in an attempt to remove this growth from inside of her spinal cord. And that if she survived the surgery, the best case scenario laid out for us moving forward was months of physical rehab, in hopes that Maddie might be able to walk again.
Wow. How were you?
So that,
Okay.
Go ahead, Pam.
I was going to just ask you to talk a little bit about some of your emotions and what fueled you, what propelled you. It's unimaginable pain. Just the amount of emotions that are swirling, I'm sure, fears, right? Can you tell me a little bit about what was keeping you going? What were you grasping onto during those challenging moments?
So that early initial, that unexpected trauma truck is almost like just pure pain and disillusion. I literally remember my wife looking at me, as much as it sounds like out of a movie. She looked at me and said, is this really happening? Are we here right now, or am I in a dream? Mm-hmm. And I can genuinely sit here and tell you that I told her, I don't know. That is how surreal it felt, because mm-hmm. Maddie was, she was perfect. It was just unimaginable. She's our first child. She represented everything good in the world. And you assume that when those moments come, that maybe there's a little tap on your shoulder, or an instruction book, or someone giving you a note that this is going to be happening. And when it's like that, there's no real getting your head around it. But I can tell you that when she went under surgery, in terms of what drove us and where the shift started to take place, I literally remember it was a 6-hour surgery. I didn't sit down for 1 second. I paced around the emergency room waiting floor, and I prayed for one thing and one thing only, and that was to talk to Maddie again. That was it. I didn't care at that moment. I didn't care whether she was paralyzed from the neck down. I played out all the tape. I didn't mind whether I was carrying her up and down our stairs when we got home. I didn't care if she was going to be able to run in. I wanted to be able to hear her voice as her. And that was it. I paced and prayed and held on to that hope. And by some miracle, not only did Maddie end up surviving her surgery that night, but within 2 weeks, against all of those projections that we had received, she, by some incredible act of miracle, was back to her walking, jumping, dancing, laughing self.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And that is where all of our energy became redirected, was keeping Maddie as Maddie. Whatever physical form, whatever the future was going to hold, was going to be there for her so that she could understand what was ahead of her. To the point where there was another instrumental moment in those early conversations. We had someone called a child life specialist pull us aside, literally within minutes of Maddie being intubated for her surgery after between those hours of midnight and 6 a.m. on the 21st. And believe it or not, what the topic of that conversation, what her goals are in her role, was to help us learn how to talk to Maddie. And that conversation not only shaped that moment for us, it changed our life forever.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? That was actually going to be one of my next questions that I wanted to ask, is as you're describing the experience, how did you help Maddie make sense of all of this? She's just dropped in this new world. She's in pain. She's scared. She's all of these new people around. What type of language did you use, or how did you describe the situation to her in a way that allayed any fears that she may have had?
That in and of itself is one of the more unexpected and life-altering lessons that we received through Maddie's journey, and that I think we all have that initial parental instinct if we're thrown into that moment. For anyone listening, if you can imagine, what do you do when your child's intubated bedside and life is slipped out from under them? We do what all parents do, which is we console. And you jump to, Maddie, everything's okay. You're going to be okay. Everything is fine. And that's our instincts. That's what we do. We care, we shield, we protect, and we insulate, especially, we do it. It's interesting. I think we do it for others, but I think we also do it for ourselves sometimes.
Right.
And what I didn't realize is that we were doing it all wrong. And the child life specialist explained to us that you have to make sense of reality for Maddie. Platitudes of it's going to be okay does not match what she just experienced and is going to continue to experience. She went from running around her home to going to school to playing with friends to waking up with beeping noises and pain and tubes and not being able to move. You have to make the world make sense for her. And that is how you build trust. And that is how she's going to build confidence, trust in you, and allow her to normalize what is otherwise a nightmare flipping of her world. And so our new starting point was breaking down the truth and
Mm-hmm.
explaining her surroundings in a way that she was going to be able to understand. And so, not so easy, knowing you're laboring under all of the fears that you might have as an adult.
Right.
So what we ultimately did, Maddie's diagnosis sort of came to light in the days following her waking up from her surgery. As you explained in your introduction, she ended up being diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer. It's called ATRT. It affects 30 to 50 kids per year in the United States. Only 1 to 2% of that 30 to 50 it appears in the spinal cord, which is where Maddie's tumor appeared. And so we took that experience knowing that the path ahead didn't end at surgery. She was going to be put on a 52-week chemotherapy protocol,
Okay.
a level of therapy that is sort of proportional to the extremeness of the disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so we packaged all that together for a narrative that would make sense for her. So we broke it down. Our sort of formula was to try to break it down and add a little dash of fun for Maddie. And so our breakdown was that explaining that, Maddie, you had a ball in your neck, that pain you were feeling, it was a little ball in your neck called a tumor. But your super doctor, he took it out, and now you're going to have to get a special medicine called chemo to make sure that the tumor does not come back. And every time we repeated that mantra, that narrative, when we do a little dance when it came to so that the tumor does not come back, make it fun, a little sing-songiness to it. And in that way, every word was real. She knew the truth. She wouldn't end up hearing words from her doctors that didn't make sense. If the nurse or the doctor talked about the chemo, or if she saw this tower in front of her, it allowed us to shape every path of that experience in a way that was built around reality, but we broke it down in a toddler way and still made it fun. And I think that framework, that narrative, in some ways shapes all of us.
Absolutely.
And if we can, in our own challenges, if we can accept the reality, create the narrative around that reality, but then turn it and see it through a lens that allows it some level of, whether it be meaning, positivity, or fun, depending on when that angle is going to be for you, that's the path forward. And there was no greater sort of proof of the power of that narrative than watching Maddie go through her journey. Because instead of being in a permanent state of fear, unknowing, anxiety, somehow a 2.5-year-old little girl who had her life flipped out from under her was able to make a hospital home, and was able to take this environment full of the beeping noises and the sounds and the continued prodding and truly life-pounding medication and make it fun. And it was and will forever be the most inspirational thing that I've ever seen in my life. And Maddie and her journey was pure presence and pure amazement. And I owe so much of that to that 5-minute conversation outside of an ICU bedroom with a child life specialist. That's truly incredible.
It really is. And that's such wise guidance, and everything about it is just so brilliant. The guidance, the delivery, the just teaching people that we need to accept. And I think that's such a big key. That's such a key to flowing in the direction life is taking us, is accepting. And that's one direction I'd like to go next and hear you talk about that, because, accepting and just bridging the gap between where reality is and where the situation might be in our mind. We really do have to kind of close that gap and flow in the direction that life is taking us. So I'd love to hear you talk about that, because as I heard you talk about, hear you talk about your story today and our brief conversation the other day, I've just noticed how you flow with the direction life is taking you. And I know a lot of people resist. And it's natural to resist when things aren't going our way, when we're faced with super challenging situations. It's normal to resist and to try to push against it. But everything you've described about your story, you've flowed with it, and you just said, okay, this is what's happening, and we need to make the best of it. And we've created these little dances, and we're finding joy in the moment, and we're present. We're here right now. We're just soaking up the joy in every moment. And I'm not going to look 5 months down the road, 10 months down the road. I'm just going to focus on, what do I want right now? I want to be present. I want to hear Maddie talk. And I'd love to hear, can you talk a little bit about just the importance of flowing with the direction life
Sure.
takes us?
Yeah, and I think sort of one threshold point that's worth remembering is that resistance is all a part of the process, and it's all a part of the journey. We are all going to have those resistance moments. As much as I can talk about it from the other side now, it never starts there. It starts with pain. It starts with hurt. It starts with resistance. It starts with anger.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are a part of experiencing trauma. And part of flowing is just allowing yourself the space to do that. Because when that stops is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, our ability to flow was so much dictated on the strength of Maddie and needing to be there for her. I had no choice but to flow.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I didn't flow, she didn't flow. And our goal was to keep Maddie as Maddie. And to do that, we had to be there for her. But eventually, over time, because there's still those moments, and any of us who have been through it know it, whether it's the moment you step into your home for the first time, quiet, alone, whether it's the shower in the morning, whether it's right before bed, you break.
Yeah.
We all do it. We all have it. And for me, the goal was not to push it away, because it's always going to be there. It's always going to sit. It's just going to be where it sits. And so part of the way I like to describe it is it's learning to live side by side by the sadness or the pain or whatever those feelings might be for the experience, instead of being subsumed by them. If we push away, if we just jump to everything's going to be okay, you're never really fully dealing.
Right.
And so it's grief and trauma and pain are an adjustment of walking side by side, and eventually learning and adjusting to be able to allow smiles and tears to coexist, and not fight against the ability of feeling all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in so many ways, the key that unlocks all of those doors is presence in the world, and mindfulness as much as we can be as adults.
Sure. And just focusing on the moment, right? Focusing on making every moment something to celebrate, and finding the joy and gratitude in each moment.
For sure. And it's something I know we all hear it, we know it, we say it. I think one of the things that rocked us about our experience, and really is a testament to the real ultimate power of presence, is watching a toddler go through something traumatic.
Yeah.
Because what's amazing, if I compared my experience to Maddie's experience, especially whether it be in the early moments or throughout her journey, even as adults, even the most mindful, yoga participating, meditating adult in the world, what are you doing when you're faced with the diagnosis of someone you love? Inherently, you are not present. You are thinking about that MRI. You are thinking about what the weeks ahead might hold. You're
Sure.
thinking about what tomorrow might bring. What does a year bring?
Right.
What does a toddler do? Their brains aren't capable of doing that yet. They don't think in the future or think in the past.
Yeah.
They are inherently present.
Mm-hmm.
And so Maddie, Maddie's world was binary. When she felt good, she played, and when she didn't, she didn't. The fact that she was getting chemotherapy, the fact that she had cancer, meant nothing to her. And because of it, because of that presence, she moved forward really in a pure state of presence, and allowed her to really dance and play her way through her disease. And in some ways that showed me front and center what chip we're missing as adults. And the very thing that makes us amazing and complicated is our mind. But
Right.
that same very mind is the same thing that makes adjustment to trauma so difficult. But it doesn't make the answer any less correct. And the answer is present. It's just difficult. And it's okay to be difficult. It's still something that we aspire to.
At any point on your journey, did you ever ask, why me? Why us? Why Maddie? Why this beautiful, vivacious, high-spirited little girl?
I ask that question a lot. Early on, I probably asked it with a heavy dose of anger.
Sure.
To be honest, you walk around the world and you see so much badness and ugliness.
Yes.
And that concept that somebody so perfect, innocent, and pure, like what place does that have in the world? And ultimately, I had to find a home for that. And I decided that there is no peace in anger, and there is no peace in those accusations. And so instead, really at different moments, I reframed that question. And I did it even more so after Maddie passed. So ultimately, Maddie's journey on this earth transitioned on January 4th of 18. And I took that question of why Maddie and began transitioning it to a statement. And a statement that instead of beginning why Maddie, would begin Maddie is why. And Maddie is now why we continue to try to make the pediatric cancer world, if not the world of trauma, a better and more inspirational place. And that is, you asked that question to kick off of how to live authentically. And there's a reason I started with making sure that she's sitting on my shoulder, because that is really the transition of us being able to still stand on 2 feet, despite the universe doing something that we can all sit and universally acknowledge is wholly and grossly unfair, painful, unimaginable. But there's no wallowing there anymore. It sits side by side, and instead, now and forever, Maddie is why the world is going to be a little bit brighter of a place. And in that special and beautiful way, she's still here.
Do you feel her presence with you every day?
So much so. So much so. But the ability to feel that presence comes from presence. Mm-hmm. And it is those moments when I am feeling ultimately present that I feel it the most.
Her spirit is just so incredibly powerful. And even I never had the pleasure of meeting Maddie in person, but her spirit lives on and I can feel that presence. And in our conversation the other day, you were telling me about Maddie and describing her. And I don't know if you recall, I used the word vivacious. I said, I can tell what a vivacious spirit she is. And I can absolutely pick that up energetically. I can sense that. And I want to kind of tie this back to the video you sent. Then you told me about the video that you guys took in the hospital room where she's dancing around and just living in the moment and joyous and just enjoying and celebrating. And I watched the video and it was so incredibly beautiful. And I noticed the name of the song that was playing. Do you want to describe that? You know, it was actually called Vida La Vida by Coldplay. Love Coldplay. And that means long live life. I looked it up and and that's what it translates to. And it ties together so beautifully, because with the word vivacious, meaning full of life. And I feel like these are moments from the universe. This is where the universe, the higher power, whatever higher power we subscribe to, speaks to us. And I'm literally getting spiritual chills as I tell this, because this was the universe speaking to us and showing us that, you know, you're on the right path. And again, I tied it back to the word I used. I could sense that in her energy, and for her to be frolicking around, dancing in that hospital room to this song that means, you know, long live life, was just such a testament to her beautiful spirit. So I'd love to hear more about Maddie and about her personality and about her spirit. And I would just love for you to share a little bit more about that. Such a beautiful little girl.
Matt, thank you. Yeah, I think you summed it up quite perfectly. That is, Maddie was life.
Yeah.
Every little bundle of what you envision a 2.5-year-old toddler girl, that was Maddie. She, whether it be loving Disney and all things Disney songs and princesses and an imaginative play, and dancing. I mean, she was just pure imaginative positivity. And it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. It was amazing to watch before she was diagnosed, and it was miraculous to watch after she was diagnosed. I mean, the video that you're referring to is probably a good 6 months into her treatment, and you have a little girl connected from a central line that is embedding 2 tubes into her chest to deliver chemotherapy from a IV pole that is sitting no more than 1.5 feet from her. And she is dancing around as we try to chase her with the pole so she doesn't stretch it out across her hospital room, smiling without a care and worry in the world. And that says it all. And that spirit, that feeling, that defined Maddie's journey. That was her literally and figuratively dancing while cancering, became the inspiration for the organization that we ultimately founded, and really the purpose that we are now holding so firmly for life moving forward, which is to honor Maddie in a way that makes the journey for other children and families a little bit brighter.
Yeah, and that's actually the perfect segue. I wanted to move into you talking about dancing while cancering, and I just thought that video just so beautifully encapsulated her energy and the spirit and the legacy that she is leaving in this world, and the light that you are all spreading. So I'd love to launch into more information. I'd love for you to tell us more information about dancing while cancering and how you spread joy and love and light to other families who receive grim diagnoses, such as the one that your family received.
Yeah, every bit of dancing while cancering is an extension of Maddie. So the moment Maddie passed, Pammy and I made a commitment. I mean, literally from her ICU room, that we were going to do everything in our power to make sure that her life was remembered as an inspiration. And within days, this idea of an organization that has one mission, and that mission is to bring joy to the inpatient hospital experience for kids with cancer. And that vision came literally within days of her passing, as we sat inside that room, because that's really the miracle that Maddie shared with us. And that adjustment was that making that room home and taking all of the pain, all the darkness that can come with a cancer diagnosis, and turn it around. And it's an extremely hard adjustment to make, but kids inherently have that power within them. And so we wanted to give that gift to other families, to be a gentle voice and reminder for what that time can hold and the potential of that time. And so the primary way that we deliver our mission is by delivering smile packs. And they are these bright neon green backpacks that we reserve for newly diagnosed patients only. And inside is all stuff to make the room your own.
Okay.
It's wireless. There's a wireless speaker. There's room decorations like streamers and paper disco balls. And there's window decals and musical instruments. All little items that slowly but surely we picked up over time. So literally, if you would have walked into Maddie's hospital room 3 months into her journey, you would have had no idea that you were walking into a hospital room.
Oh.
It was playland. That's what we did. We had disco balls on the curtain hooks and the IV poles. We made her windowsill a bookshelf. We had little Disney figurines throughout. And really, Pammy and I decided that transformation was not something that a parent should have to learn. That should be a gift from moment one. And so our smile packs are that moment one, that moment when a family is at rock bottom, that they receive a little glimmer of hope that comes with a little note on each and every smile pack from me and Pammy, serving as that gentle reminder that while they don't control their disease, the fact that they are there is not something that they would have wished, and something they would wish they could wish away, that they can still control the way they live. And what started as just a beautiful way to honor Maddie and to make a positive difference in these families' lives has now grown to delivering smile packs at 16 hospitals across 11 states in the country. And
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It's just really been beautiful, and is such a testament to the power of Maddie's inspiration, but also the power of community. Our team Maddie is a small but mighty and growing force of nature, and the only reason we get from a small local impact at Lurie to helping kids across the United States is on the strength of friends, family, and community feeling the inspiration of Maddie's story, being inspired by her story, and motivated to share it in a way that continues to make a difference for other kids and families.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just such a testament to her spirit living on, and the strength of that, and your faith and everything. And I'm amazed at how much you guys have accomplished in such a short period of time. I mean, it wasn't, that long ago that Maddie transitioned, and for you to be able to transmute that pain and that grief and that loss. I mean, I feel like grief and loss are one of the hardest things that we're called to deal with on this earth. And for you to be able to so swiftly transmute that into light and love and joy and scatter that throughout this world is truly remarkable. And I know that you do that via a number of different ways through these smile packs. And you are an author. You also have 2 books that honor Maddie and her legacy. And I would love to hear you talk about those.
Yeah, every bit of what we do, Pam, is a testament to the unearthly strength and inspiration of Maddie. Everything from the purpose of the organization to what we do, to the growth, to the books that we've written in her honor, they ooze out of us because of her. And we ended up writing 2 books in Maddie's honor. One is called Maddie's Miracles. The other is called The Miracles That Follow. And together, not only do they share the sort of factual underpinnings of Maddie's truly inspirational story and give you that inside feel of all of the love that she brought into the world, but I think on a more macro level, they really read as a path through adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And almost a mini guidebook from who we sometimes refer to as our mini monk of really Maddie's path through adversity, through trauma, and it's an unbelievably inspirational journey. And we donate 100% of the royalties that we receive from both books all to cancer charities.
Wow.
And our hope is that both Maddie's stories in every which way, both in the donations that they generate and that they love, they bring, that they are a true beacon of light. I think the covers to both books tell so much story, and both books we self-published them. So we self-published on Amazon, didn't receive help from any outside sources other than someone who had a little more artistry than us to create the covers. And there's one prominent feature on both of those covers, and it's light. And that is Maddie's legacy, and that is what is packed into the words of these books. You know, most people hear the words pediatric cancer, and that is not a cover page that they can turn over.
Mm-hmm. And
I've actually had a few people verbalize to me that they tried and could not. And my heartfelt belief is that the reward for working through Maddie's story will be one of the more inspirational journeys that is available to this world. And while it was a journey that in a heartbeat I would take away and wish that was not something we had to experience, I can still sit here and with full inspiration say that I am so grateful for every moment with her and all of the unbelievable blessings that she left behind. And thankfully, through her inspiration, we were able to really memorialize those amazing lessons in a way that brings light to others.
Yeah, it is just so beautiful how you're just playing a role in helping other people cope with situations like this, give them hope, continue to scatter joy and love and light throughout the world. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to be here and share your story with us. If people would like to get in touch with you directly, how can they do that?
Sure, there's a few really easy ways to get in touch. Feel free to visit our website at dancingwhilecancering.org. There's a contact us on there. We're on the other side, so no employees, no overhead. It's just me and my wife and a labor of love. One really special way to both support what we're doing, feel uplifted, and also touch base, we have an Instagram page for @dancingwhilecancering. So it's @dancingwhilecancering, and it is really an extension of our mission. So we share every week. We share a real example of a patient and how they hashtag battle with joy, and how they are bringing joy inside the hospital in their own experience. And what's really special is when our followers are able to support those kids as we share their stories, to be able to throw some love in the comments and to cheer them on. But through a simple message, I'm on the other side of that page. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that there's something greater. There's something greater than cancer about all of this. And the idea of dancing while cancering, the idea of battle with joy, is something universal. And that universality is how do you keep moving forward in the face of pain? How do you choose hope in the face of helplessness? And that is really the symbol and the essence of dancing while cancering. It is a choice. It's a choice of choosing to be dancing while cancering, but it is also a choice that we can't make alone. And that if we can be there for one another, if we can support one another, whether on an Instagram page, a text message, flowers, gifts, or just a shoulder to lean on, we're all in this together. And we're all in the world of helping one another through each other's pain. And if we can be there for one another, the world will continue to be a better place. And the people going through that direct trauma will have a smoother walk along their journey.
So beautifully said. So beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today and for the wonderful role you play in this world as a healer, as someone who spreads love and light and joy. So Scott, I'm so grateful that you were able to share your story with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Just a true privilege, and the work you're doing is really incredible. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And to all of our viewers and listeners, I would like to thank you as well. I believe that time is a choice, and I am so grateful that you have chosen to be here today and to listen to Scott's message. I would love to also have you join our Facebook community. Again, we're a group of like-minded people committed to spiritual growth and transformation, and we can be found at liveauthentically.today/FB. Also, check out PamelaSavino.com for more information about my book, Soar. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.